Okay, I'm working on it. Play it. Hold on, Jay. Hold on. I- Stop. All right. What's going on? What's going on to all my embracers? This is Grace from Embrace the Grace. And also I'm on JVJ Network. I have the privilege and honor to be on the show tonight because this show meant a lot to me. So I went out and reached out to JVJ from the JVJ Network and Let's Talk JVJ. And I asked him, let me drop this little nugget on the network and see if I could work my way back on it. So guys, welcome. If you guys don't know me, again, I am Grace from Embrace the Grace, and this is a channel where we're going to have thought-provoking conversations, where we embrace the truth and we embrace your truth. And the biggest thing that I ask of everybody is that we respect each other. We don't overtalk anybody, especially me or my co-host, and that we have a good conversation. And tonight's topic is it's going to be a little touch and go, but it needs to be embraced. It needs to be talked about because I can't believe that in 2023 that shit like this is still happening and it's actively happening and it's an everyday occurrence where it's like to the black and melanated people where simply going to the bank you're running a risk. You're running a risk of racially being profiled just to visit a branch, and it's like you don't know what's going to happen. Is your check going to be okay? Is it going to be cash? Are you going to get the cops called on you? So I saw a story that really touched my heartstrings. It was really sad. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show you the video because of copyrights, but I'm definitely going to talk to you about it. I do have a couple of other videos, of course, to show you, but that was the one video that prompted me to do this video. So with that being said, I am going to Jay from the JVJ Network is here. So yes, I messed up the intro. He was waiting for me to see a smooth transition, and I didn't fail to disappoint him. But I'm still working on it. Jay, do you want to come up here now, or do you want to like continue? No, okay, no problem, us. So with that being said, let's first things first. Let's talk about what racism is. The definition, because anybody that knows me, I'm not just gonna come up here and talk my shit. I am going to give you information and statistics. Give me just one moment because I am going to drop the link because I have my guest that always comes up here with me, and he's just moved over to the JVG network with me as well. So I appreciate it. I just dropped the link. You guys, please don't get keyboard trigger happy. Come up and talk to us. Come up and say what you got to say. You don't even have to be on camera. I do have to see what you look like, and if you're human and not a and not a human, and you don't have to be seen on the camera. But we would appreciate, this is a podcast. This is what we do. We talk, we exchange ideas and views of each other. Gary, if you can hear me, I put the link in, so you're welcome to go ahead and click on the link so I can get you up here and introduce you, and then I can start the show. If you want to wait on, if you want to hold off a minute, that's fine too. Whatever you want, boss. It's all on you. Okay, so Gary's up here. Let me go ahead and put him in here. Okay, Gary, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Gary, once again, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for so much supporting me. But before we get started, I just want to give you a little background information of the JVJ network.
Hmm.
Jay, me and him have met. It's gonna go on a year now. I met him through
Okay.
another podcaster, and I think what he's doing is something good. He is trying to get together other podcasters and
Hmm.
start doing a network. So it's like everybody has their own night. They do their own show. They stream it on the network. They stream. It's still streaming on my channel. It's streaming on his personal channel, my channel, and the network. And then in hopes of his subscribers coming over to mine, my subscribers coming in, and we all. I This is how I like to put it. He's creating a buffet so we can all eat and
Hmm.
we can all do our thing. So this is actually my second chance that he's given me. I kind of messed it up the first time because I had to slay a couple dragons. And then I kind of had to take a hiatus from YouTube, so he had to do what he had to do to continue the network. And now I'm trying to get my back way in there. So this is the first step to that. So that's what the JVJ network is about. Guys, please like, subscribe, and share, but you have the responsibility to do it to 3 channels. You have the responsibility to do it to the JVJ network, Embrace the Grace, and Let's Talk with JVJ, and my counterparts, Ops. And I'm not familiar with the other new one, but you guys, you see them there. Please support them because we're all trying to do something. And with that being said, Gary D, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell everybody where we can find you and do your thing.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank Grace for having me again. I enjoy being a guest on her podcast every Monday night. Um, my name is Gary D. My background is in the entertainment industry and in investment banking. Um, I'm also president of Boardwalk Global Media, which is a podcasting network. We have a number of shows that's on our network also, and we're expanding, and we have our own in-house studio and things like that. So I definitely understand what it is to run a podcast network and build shows and uh, and create a larger platform, if you will, and giving other shows opportunities to be on a network and sort of cross market with viewers. So I totally understand that. I'm also owner of ESI Global Group, which is a management and consulting company. I have an artist from Australia named Baba T that be on the lookout for him. He'll be out soon. We just had a billboard up in Times Square last year. Um, he's been doing a bunch of stuff over in Australia. He's done some stuff here in the US. So over the next coming months, you'll see him part of the whole 50th hip hop anniversary and stuff like that. And again, I just wanted to thank Grace for having me on her show because I enjoy the topics that she talks about, and it's topics that needs to be talked about, like the real discussions. Um, and for people that want to find me, they could find me every Friday night on The Real Discussion, which is my main podcast from 8 to 10 p.m. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch.
All righty. Thank you so much for that. So you guys heard that. So what I want to say to you, I know you know what the topic is,
Yeah,
Gary, but you obviously fall into this category. You know, sometimes I can go either way, you know, but you can't change you. So
right.
when I say to you, banking while black, what comes to mind when I say that?
Well, what comes to mind is that there's been issues that Black people have had, going to the bank, um, where they may have a large check and the bank doesn't, you know, they don't feel a Black person can be cashing a large check, right? So, uh, depending where you're at, they may call the cops. Um, and it's quite interesting because a lot of us, we own our own businesses, so we are able to get some of these checks that we can cash. But I think that depending where we're at, you have some of these bank managers who they look at you because of maybe not only because you're Black, but because of the way you dress. Oh, he can't be cashing a $60,000 check or a $20,000 check or something like that. And they think you probably stole it.
Mm-hmm.
So they go through hoops. Now, I personally have never had an issue. I personally have never had an issue. Like I've been
Why do
I've
you
been
think that?
well, here's my so I think it's twofold. I think one, when I was younger, my mom was someone that she always like the times I went with her to the bank, I've never seen her have a problem. And she also, she had excellent credit. Now, as I got older, um, when I worked and went to the bank and cashed my regular checks, it was no problem. Now, what changed my life was when I was in the entertainment industry, my business manager, I had an account with my business manager, and he
Mm-hmm.
wrote me a check to go to the bank. He's like, yo, take this check to the bank and, go cash it. So, because I went to him to go get some money. So I go, and this was maybe 92, right? So I go to the bank, right? I go up to the window, and the lady says, no, we don't do that here. You need to go downstairs to private banking. At that time, I didn't know what private banking was. And I guess a couple of white people on the line overheard, and they looked at me crazy. So I go downstairs to private banking, and the receptionist come out, and I tell her, she was like, I'll be right back. So then the vice president comes out. He was like, Mr. Delamorth, we were expecting you. I'm like, wait a minute. Right? So he was like, okay. So he was like, what? He was like, we'll take care of your transaction. And I gave him a check. So now the reason why I'm saying this is that I had no idea what private banking is or what's called private client services is. When
That's
you're
the
a
high
part of
clientele.
right, when you're part of that, you they take you right in, right? You have your personal banker who looks up on the computer to make sure to take care of your transaction right there and then. They'll be like, do you want any coffee? Would you like any champagne? Would you like any wine?
VIP, baby.
Like that type of shit, right? So I'm blown away. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? So, but that was my sort of introduction, and every time I always went back. So that particular bank, every time that I went there, I sort of just had to go into private banking, got my money, and I was out. And it was an enlightening experience for me. Then I wind up finding out that over in Europe, with high class clients in private banking, it's done by introduction. So if I'm a member of a bank, and or I'm a client of a major bank, and I want to bring you in. So I bring you to the bank and I say, hey, look, Grace, she's an excellent friend of mine. We do business together. You should have her account, right? And that's a practice in European banking.
Wow.
Right? That's a practice. There's a bank called Julius Baer. Julius Baer is where all the super rich people have their money. You can't walk through the front door and get into Julius Baer. You can't just go in there and say, oh, I got $20 million. I'd like to put it in your bank. No, somebody got to introduce you. You got to be introduced.
So everything is based upon referral.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you another question. Your business partner, is he black or white?
My business partner now is black.
No,
but my business manager at the time, he was white. He was an older gentleman. He was like in his 80s. But he was one of the top business managers in the entertainment industry.
Okay.
So it was because of him that I.
Well, with that being said, do you think because he was an old white rich businessman that your doors were open the way
absolutely,
they were?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
And that's, I mean, I'm great. It's great. It was great for you, but I think that that's messed up that because of him, it was why you got that VIP treatment. Do you think you would have got that treatment if you were just to walk in and try to cash that check?
No, I wouldn't have got that. But see, this is, it's unfortunately we have to, well, in a city like New York, it's a little bit different because, you have a lot of black people who do make money here. So they're not really gonna judge you, or you're not really gonna have an issue. Now it's other places, like if you're in some southern places or some Midwestern places, like you walk in there and you're trying to cash a $20,000 check, they're gonna think that you stole it, or you're trying to cash a $10,000 check. They're gonna think that you
fraudulent.
Or it's fraudulent. So they're going to be jumping through hoops. Now, I've heard of quite a few stories like that. And when I look and see where the location is, more times than not, it's either in one of them southern states or one of the Midwestern states.
And it's 2023, Gary.
I know. You would think. You would think. Yeah.
Besides the story that I read, and why it prompted me to do this show, I also have a personal story to tell.
Okay.
And it wasn't a good one. So I said, you know what? this would be the perfect opportunity to tell my story and to tell this story. But again, I'm going to just start out with a little educational background. The first thing is, what is the definition of racism? It's prejudice and discrimination by an individual, community, or institution against a person or people on their membership in particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is minority. So we really know what it is.
Right.
I'm not also just, it's banking while black and melanated, because this happens to a lot of Hispanics.
Right.
I get it. To a lot of biracial people. It's whenever you have your skin melanated, then now you're up against something. Okay. So banking while black and melanated customers do run the risk area of racially being profiled every day they visit a bank branch. For many blacks and melanated Americans, going to the bank can be a fraught experience. Something as simple as trying to cash a check or open a bank account can lead to employees being suspicious of you, summoning the police, causing anxiety and fear, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes even physical danger and imprisonment just for simply trying to do a banking transaction, just because you're black or your skin is melanated. And the fact that this just happened 2 months ago. Again, I can't show you the video because it's copyrighted by Fox News. And
Okay.
and
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if you know this, but in YouTube, if you get
I, I,
a
yeah, I got
copyright,
it.
you don't get monetized. And my boy
Yeah,
here, he gets monetized, so I can't show it. And he
yeah,
told me not to get in the habit of showing those videos because then when I start getting monetized, and by the way, guys, there's a Cash App there. You're welcome to drop something to support the channel and the show. But if you can't do that, the likes are free. You at least you can do that. It's like walking in the door and saying hello. Press the like button. So the fact that this happened 2 months ago,
mm-hmm.
and think of okay, now what I want you to do, everybody here and Gary, I want you to think of your mom or your grandmother. Okay, fragile. She's 71 years old. I don't even need my notes because I read this so much and it bothered me so much. She goes into the bank ATM and she deposits $600. She deposits the $600 to pay her mortgage. Okay. So she deposits the money, she gets her little receipt, and then a couple hours later, she realizes that the money is not showing up on her account. Okay. So she shows up to the bank and she says, hey, my money hasn't shown up in my account. I really need this money because I have to pay my mortgage. And they say, oh, they kind of dismissed her. Oh, we're working on it. Come back tomorrow. Okay. She didn't think nothing of it. So she comes back the next day. She sees the man working on the ATM. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
She goes back and says, hey, I need my $600. I got to pay my mortgage. It's going to be late. I'm going to get a late fee. Da 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 da. Oh, we're still working on it. They even acknowledged that the ATM is being worked on. And she's saying, well, why don't you guys just give me my $600? Either credit it to my account or give it back to me so I can pay my mortgage. Okay. And they told her, we're working on it. Come back tomorrow. Okay, not once, not twice, Gary. This is a 71-year-old retired teacher who's been a customer of this bank for 50 years because she's a retired teacher and it was a teacher's credit union bank.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she got I'm sure she got grandfathered in with a lot of things. Okay, now we're on day 2. The rent is due, the mortgage is due. They still playing with her. So she goes a third time. But now she's to the point where, you know what? I just want my money back and I want it now. And I'm not leaving here until I get my money. What do you think they did?
They call the cops.
They called the cops on a 70 year
Mm-hmm.
old grandma, retired teacher. And then something in the police radio waves, they said something about a gun. Okay? There was no gun. There never was a gun. But because she was resisting and she was kept telling them there is no gun, there is no gun. And the police officer said, why, don't say the word gun again, or I'm going to arrest you. She turned around and said, I don't own a gun. I don't believe in guns. I don't do none of this. So, with that being said, they arrested her. 71-year-old woman being arrested, 70, 71. Not only that, they never gave her one phone call. She got thrown in a jail cell butt naked because she was on suicidal watch due to the fact that she was so resistant. And then her husband, who's an ex-Vietnam veteran, suffers from insulin, and she's the one that administers the insulin to him, so she couldn't get to him. I mean, it just, Gary, it just snowballed into such an unnecessary situation where the bank manager simply could have just gave her $600 or credited the $600, but that was too much like right. This lady is 70 years old. Imagine somebody doing that to your grandmother or your mom. What would you do about that?
Well, first of all, I mean, you're mentioning that I heard you say that it was in a teachers credit union. Like, if that was the case, then they should have gave her money. Credit unions are supposed to be a lot more flexible than banks, right? So they should have. So there's that issue there. So he could have easily gave her money back, and for the time that she's been in the bank, like it wasn't like she was a client of the bank for, I don't know, 2, 3 years, 5 years. Like, she got what did you say, 40 years in the bank? So
50. She's
50, yeah.
customer of 50 years.
So yeah, that I mean, if that was my mother or my grandmother, the bank would have had a lawsuit, in the city, and the police would have had a lawsuit. But unfortunately, a lot of our people, they don't know about that, and also I would.
No, she got that lawyer. She got that
Oh,
black
good.
lawyer that's why I couldn't show, because he was the one that told the story. Oh, she
Oh,
got that lawyer that
oh, good.
represented Tyron Martin,
Trayvon Martin. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, good, good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good, good, excellent.
the
So,
bald-headed guy.
yeah, Benjamin Crumb,
The the
Ben
fact is,
Crumb.
Gary, they acknowledged that it was a
Yeah,
faulty ATM machine. They so-called said that she was behaving outrageous and belligerent,
of course
and
they're gonna
she
say
just
that.
kept saying, "I just want my $600. I'm not leaving until I get my $600." And then that's when the police were called.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, yeah, of course they're gonna say that. I mean, they have to make themselves look good, right? And to give the police something to go on. So it's clearly unfortunate that something like that happens, and especially when you have someone that's been a client of the bank for 50 years. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm. I got a couple comments here. Let's go with this. I got okay. So I have Angry Snowman. Hey, how you doing? Thank you for coming to the show. I really do appreciate your support. He says here, well, why isn't her mortgage through the same bank that she banks with? Angry Snowman, that doesn't always happen. You
Yeah, it
don't
doesn't always
always
happen.
bank with the bank that you have your mortgage with. You get your mortgage to whoever approves you. And
Yeah,
sometimes it's not the bank that you bank with. And
that's
then
right.
he kept saying, and that doesn't make sense that she would have a mortgage with another bank than one that she has been with her whole life. Angry, I'm just keep it real with you. That doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter. The fact remains is that she made a deposit of $600 to a faulty ATM machine, and they were not giving her money back or credit her money, and they fucking called the cops on the 71. You have to see the wrong in that, Angry
Yeah,
Snowman.
they
You
could
really do,
easily.
because right
Yeah,
now you're giving me symptoms to the problem.
they could have.
Okay,
They could have. Yeah, they could have
go
easily
ahead.
credited her. They could have easily credited her $600.
absolutely. And then, hi Grace, how you doing? This is another Grace that be coming through all the time. Grace said, I was in a similar situation as a caretaker went in with this elderly black woman that I cared for, and the bank screwed up her funds while we were standing there. She was upset, and they asked her to hold on. I gotta go down more to leave. I went off, and they asked us to leave. And I told the white lady behind the counter that she was stealing this woman's money, and I wasn't leaving until they fixed it.
Right.
Oh, there go my queen. I'm gonna say it right tonight. Shalamikia. No, I know I messed that up. I always mess up her name, but hi, queen. How are you? Thank you for coming through. I really do appreciate your support. I really, really do. I did go 30 minutes earlier today. I know I told you 8:30, but I see you got the notification. So thank you for coming through. I really do appreciate it. And she said, hey, amazing people. And then Grace came back. They threatened to call the police on us both. I said, go ahead. I have the proof in her phone that y'all are stealing from her. I stood up for her and it got resolved. And we were then told to leave. And hold on. And was treated like I was black from then on anytime I went in. Oh, yeah, because now you're an N lover. You're a ninja lover because you stood up for her. But you they only threatened to call the cops, and they fixed the problem, Grace, because you were there. If her caretaker was black too, I'm sorry, they would have thrown the book at both of them. So, of course, no offense to you, Grace, but you were able to exercise your white privilege there. You pulled rank because and it's fucked and it's really fucked up. It really is, and I'm pissed off about because if that was my grandmother or my mother, well, until I get to my story, watch. Angry Snowman say usually you get a mortgage with a finance institution you have a built a relationship with. The reason I pose this question is because if that were the case, that bank would have known why her payment was late. But it wasn't Angry. She had her money in a bank that she had for 50 years, and then her mortgage was paid somewhere else. So I guess she was taking that money, putting it in there so she can write a check or write the mortgage. But what I want you to see, Angry Snowman, that even everything that you're saying, yes, holds water, but that shouldn't have been no reason to call the cops on a 7-year-old lady, throw the book at her, throw her in a cold cell where there was fluids on the floor, ants. I mean, it's just come on. That's cruel and unusual punishment for somebody that's trying to recoup their money. And then Grace back and said, exactly. So you agree with me. I just sometimes I have to be careful, Garrett, what I say because people are so fucking sensitive nowadays. And the
Let them
first
be sensitive.
no, but you know what? The first thing they want to do is, oh, I'll blast you on social media. I have had people go to my profile, screenshot pictures. I mean, and I know that's a chance that you take when you become a public figure, and I'm willing to take it. But be that as it may, I still have to move a certain way. Like I've learned not to become triggered with comments. I've learned not to I just don't respond to you. And then
Well, that's what.
Grace
Yeah, listen.
agreed. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
you don't like if it's because I've been doing we I've been dealing with Boardwalk Global Media for 4 years. We grew it from one podcast to a network. And in my experience, when it comes to social media, no matter what you say, somebody's going to have issues, right? When this whole Trump thing was in office, oh, a lot of his supporters came at me, but I didn't I didn't bow from that. I said what I had to say, right? I'm not going to respond to stupid people, right? Like I can have an intelligent conversation and discussion, but you have a lot of people that when they're behind the they're keyboard warriors, right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
They could
Warriors.
talk
I
a
like
whole lot
that
of
one.
stuff, right? They could talk a whole lot of smack behind the keyboard, But then if you see them in person, they're not going to talk like that. And I think in social media, it gives a lot of people, or maybe too many people, and I don't want to say an unnecessary voice, but I think that those people who, because they don't like what you said because they don't agree with it, they want to say bad stuff about you or
Of
want to
course.
blast you, which
Look
which
how
is which is which is stupid. Like that's high school shit, right? Like, so I think that, so I guess what I'm just saying is that you just gotta ignore some of them, and then for the intelligent ones, you could make an intelligent comment back. But for the others, somebody's always gonna have, somebody's always gonna have some type of issue by what you say. And listen, you could say it in the most respectful way, and they'll still have
and
an
they'll
issue.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what? I've come to the realization that I don't give a fuck. Do what you got to do. My real audience and my real supporters are gonna know what's up. And I
Exactly.
really do interact. Anytime I get a comment, I comment back. Anytime somebody hits me, like last night I was doing my previews and somebody called me on Instagram at 1 o'clock in the morning and they wanted to talk about, I'm gonna do it because I know that I'm putting myself out there. I'm not putting private settings on my platforms because you know what? It is what it is.
Let me explain.
As long as you don't threaten me or come for my family, then we good. And that's when it turns into something totally different. But I'm not gonna stop. I mean, Gary, you should, and no, Jay knows this. I've been called a pick me. I've been called the N lover. I just so, but you know what? It brings me great content.
So you
Yeah,
want to, well, see, and right at the end of the day, it's great content. But see, when you speak in truth, right, a lot of people going to have problems with that.
look at
I
what
look,
happened to Kevin Samuels.
look,
Even though I still feel that was foul play. God
yeah,
bless the dead.
when you're speaking truth, people are going to have a lot of problems with that. When me and my business partner Rock started Boardwalk Global Media, one of the first things I said to Rock, I said, if Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham could say all the crazy shit on Fox News, then dude, I'm not keeping quiet. And I'm telling the truth. Them motherfuckers is lying
Right.
outright. So
Exactly.
if people want to
Okay,
be mad, then let them be mad.
hold on, Gary. My statements are stacking up. So
Okay, go, go.
Grace said again, I will pull some kind of rank in that situation anytime. I'm mixed, but it works for us that they couldn't tell. I speak with the authority of truth and I travel in Christ. I know that's right, Grace, because I could go either way. So that I could switch. And then if I had a comment of the night, you would be a runner up. I support Embrace the Grace and not just because my name is on it. I know that's right. And then I have Hey, beloved, at Embrace the Grace. Thank you for coming, Philip. I appreciate that. And Angry Man came back and said, I'm not saying how they responded was right in any way. What I'm saying is that some of the information don't make sense to me. And I get it, Angry Snowman, but what I just it doesn't have to make sense. What has to make sense is that a person of any color, creed, polka dot, purple, blue, Martian should be able to walk into a bank in peace, do their transaction in peace, and walk out with what they wanted. I mean, see, this is why people don't like dealing with banks because you hold on to their money and you don't want to give them their money. And as a matter of fact, I have a couple videos because y'all know I do some videos. And then I got one more comment, and Grace said, I support unapologetic truth, period. And I get it. But finishing up with that story, so she's suing, and the bank offered an apology, gave her a $300 gift card, and said that this never should have happened. And they offered to pay her mortgage for the month. Oh, and I forgot to say something else. They fractured her nose in the midst of while she was getting arrested. 70 years old. You're
Mm.
only going there to deposit $600 and you walk out with a record. a broken nose, and thrown in jail butt naked for 33 hours. And then who's giving the husband the insulin shit? And then they didn't even give her a phone call
Yeah, well,
until the
see,
next day.
well, unfortunately, we have to see it clearly with white people. They're not going to have that issue, but with us, we got to fight 3 or 4 times as hard, right? And it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be that because I
Not
mean,
at 2023.
not in 20, right? Not in 2023, but unfortunately, we still have places where stuff like that will happen. You will still have places where you have people are in uh, positions at banks that's still gonna pull the racist card or pull the racism card, right? And again, I think also too, you know, it depends on the location, but also, but historically, black people has always had issues with banks. Always, always. I mean, you know, it's
So
always
is black
been,
people and melanated people's money not green enough?
see, here's the thing.
What's the beef?
I think that they feel, and when I say that, the system feels that, oh, like we're not taught about money. We're not taught about money and how banking works. So clearly they feel that they could get over on us. Now, I will tell you, with some of my friends that I help, they'd be like, yo, how did they they would come to me and be like, how did you know that? Or how did you find out that? Right? Because I would tell them, if you're having an issue with the bank, here's what you need to do. Here's who you need to talk to, or what have you. A lot of us, we don't come from parents that have taught us stuff like that because sometimes our parents didn't know.
Exactly.
Because again, historically, black people has had issues with banks, right? I mean, and the one bank that they did try to give us, what, back in the 40s, white men stole like 100 million and fucking burnt the shit down,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is
Exactly.
what we're dealing with, right? So we're not really. So all we've known is, okay, we go to work, we go to the bank and cash our check and get our money. We have our savings account in the bank, and that's it. We don't know nothing else on
That's
how
why
it works.
people want the fucking interest and not even deal with banks. And
And that
then
ain't
what's
right.
going to happen? Because ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you guys know this, and I know a lot of us are in denial, but we are going digital. We
I
are one of the last countries to go cashless.
I said that I was calling that 30 years ago, right? That they're slowly going to be phasing out. They're slowly
It
going to be
costs a lot
phasing
of
out.
money to print that
Of
paper and
course.
that ink is costing them a lot of money. And not only that, they want to track our spending. They want to
Well,
see what we're
it's so much
spending
easier.
money
Right.
on.
It's so much easier to track people digitally. Like they'll, they look now. Like I want to say now, like in certain countries over in the Netherlands, you can put the microchip in your hand, right?
Hmm.
And this is how they selling it to people. Oh, you could come to this club, have a VIP night for the whole month. Um, this is what it's cost, but hey, you can get a microchip that all you got to do is when you come in, they scan it. That's how they selling it.
And it tells you everything about you, your DNA, your blood type, your name, your date of birth, everything, everything. It's like how how you microchip a dog.
Yeah,
That's how we're
but
gonna be.
that's what they well that and you see here what they started doing for all those pet lovers, and all the pet lovers jumped on it. Oh, so your pet doesn't get lost, or you want to find your pet, microchip your pet. Everybody was on it.
And you're bound to that animal because I have a friend that the dog has bit everybody in the house, but the Humane Society won't take the dog back. And they
Wow.
can't get rid of the dog because it'll trace it back to them.
Yeah, yeah,
You know
yeah.
how sometimes you want to, I said,
Yeah.
shit, just get rid of it. I can't. Because if I do something to it, it'll come back to me. And I'll
Yeah,
never be able to adopt another. So he is bound to this dog that
yeah.
has bitten everybody in the house. I said, you can't. do rat poison or something? He's like, no.
Right.
I mean, you can't drive all the way out in the woods. He was like, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have the heart
yeah.
to do that. I'm like, and that's how it's gonna be. They're gonna be, I mean, in a good way, maybe it's good so you can track missing people, but they're gonna use it for their advantage
Of
to
course,
track us, to
of
track our
course.
spending. You know?
But see what happens. See what happens to the point. And for the most part, I'm not. I'm not really against it. But what I am against, what happens when a major defense contracting company comes in and buys that company that does the microchips? Now you got a problem. Now that's the real problem,
Yeah, yeah, you're
right?
absolutely right.
So that's now it becomes a major problem. So yeah, so and unfortunately, this is where we're going. And if our politicians and even our voters don't wake up and try to put some stop to this shit, or at least put some um guidelines,
Boundaries. Exactly.
boundaries on this shit. Like, hey, if y'all gonna do this, then here's what needs to happen, or here needs to, y'all could do it like this or this, but unfortunately, it's not going like that. So they're trying to sell this whole microchip thing as it being okay. And as I said to you last week, there's an institute in London called the Tavistock Institute. They've done research on this years ago on what the transition is going to be,
Damn.
on how to condition people to accept.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
gonna, the first is gonna be voluntarily. Okay. Then look who we got in the house. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. Mr.
Hello,
Chu, hold on.
hello.
Let me read this comment real quick. Grace said, my mom is Chamamoro. We've been accused of theft before, even getting near the checkout. Like it or not, the truth is that people are still disrespectful due to darker skin tones. Absolutely. I mean, and then let me just get, and then hold on, let me see. And then cyber toxin, thank you for coming to the show. I'm not familiar with a lot of you guys because I know this is the JVJ network and let's talk JVJ, but I just want to thank you for coming to support me on the JVJ network, and I really appreciate it. So cyber said banks do more than hold money. Banks are meant to control money. It would be much easier for them to track and control everyone through their money in digital form. Absolutely, cyber. And the old elderly people are fighting this. They do not want this at all. Like our moms and grandma, they do not want this at all. Okay, so let me I got one more comment. Israel came in and said the champ is here. So true. Wow, I reached out to you today because I feel like I don't want to bother you every week. I just
Not
touch
even,
on you every other. Well, you see, Gary, he's a fixed fixture already, so he not gonna go nowhere. But true, thank you for coming to the show. I really do appreciate you. Introduce yourself and tell people where we can find you.
hello, audience. True Table. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, same name, TREUTABLE. I'm a content creator and I talk about topics like this, anything relationship related, men's empowerment, and I'm definitely here to support Grace and her growth through this journey. But yeah, thanks for having me. I jumped on, so forgive me, I didn't see the video. I seen the title and I seen the thumbnail and I was
So
like, huh.
did that draw you in? Because I learned that the thumbnail is a very important factor in bringing in your audience for shows. Did that bring you in?
It definitely did. It got me curious. Ironically, I was just talking about this earlier today, and it's something that I had experienced some years ago. So I started a company maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. And I will tell you, through just being blessed in the way I was raised, is my dad taught me the power of a pen when I was younger, taught me the power of writing letters when I was young. So anyway, I did experience something like this. The first time I ever cashed a check for my business that was about $25,000. I struggled doing it. And I found it interesting because no other time that I have these issues. And when I walked into the bank, and I think I caught you guys moments ago talking about it with the racial profiling and things, I think it's so much deeper. What was happening to me was that the banks I was going into with the amounts I was bringing was more than most of them made in a month, sometimes in a year. And it was quite offensive, on top of the fact that they already assume that if you're Caucasian, Asian, maybe the Middle Eastern, that if you walk in with a check in a 5 or 6 figure range, they just assume that it's legitimate because our society has already kind of convinced people that money belongs to certain people. But when you walk in as a melanated person, they'll offend you by being polite. They may ask you something like, "So what do you do?"
Yeah.
And it's very condescending.
No, to me, that's being condescending. Yeah, exactly. There you go. You got it. That you're being what is it to you what I do? It's none of your business what I do.
Exactly. But I started to understand after consistency of what's going on and how it's viewed. I think a lot of times our community is not well versed on how banks really, really work. Banks are the biggest hustle.
Exactly. I just said that. Exactly.
Yes, you did. But it's and I will tell you, being of the community, and I've been a victim of this, guilty of this, and I've witnessed it myself. We have to learn how to fight politically. We have to learn how to fight through policy. Companies don't care how you feel. They'll throw, and one thing they understand too is our community overwhelmingly is easy to appease. So if you throw a dollar amount to it, it buys your silence. If I give you a gift card, I think you said they gave this lady a gift card. That is beyond to me.
A gift card, and they paid her mortgage for the month. That's not enough for throwing me in jail naked, breaking my nose, not giving me my phone call, and not being there for my husband to give him his insulin shot. It just went too far. Over 600, and they admitted, True, that their ATM machine was faulty. She saw the guy fixing the ATM machine. Why would you not just give her the money and have a wonderful day? I'm sorry for the inconvenience.
There's this thing called.
What is so hard about that?
Well, I can tell you why. Most of it has nothing.
Make me understand.
Well, some of it is, I will say, it's color based, but on top of that, it's bigger than that. There's this thing called monetary flow. So every bank has a certain ledger that they have to hold for the day, which most people don't know this. Every bank is different. Sometimes it's $1 million, sometimes it's 5. Or what you do as a consumer, okay, you can test it one day because you're going to be rich, I promise you. So when you get a real fat check.
Your mouth to God's ears.
When you get a fat check, let's say 50,000. Go put it in the bank on Monday, then go on Tuesday and try to take that same amount of money out.
They don't hold that much cash flow in their banks. They have to order it.
No, they do, but they don't allow so many transactions at certain amounts per day.
Exactly.
Yes. But what it is that a lot of people who have lower, they don't move money like that. They don't understand this game. Once your money is deposited, it is allocated through multiple sections in the bank, the real estate, the crypto, whatever. When you ask for your money in a certain amount, you hit their passable transaction limit. This is why they tell you if you put something like a $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 check in a bank, they're going to hold it for 11 days, 13 days to verify. But that's
they're going to sit on their interest.
Well, it's bigger than that. What it is, okay, so anytime you move money in a bank, they have to account for those funds. So it's you as a person, they have to make money off your money. That's how banks survive. So when you move money, you slow down their earning potential. I had this crazy concept years ago. I would say if all chocolate people walked into the bank in Los Angeles, just 1 million of us, and removed every dollar we had, it would move the system. Because what happens is that even if it's little amounts, 200, 500, 1,000, don't matter. When you multiply it in increments of millions, hundreds of thousands, it makes the bank a lot of money. I think 1 year in 2015, they had stated that the bank makes an average of about 16.5 billion in overdraft fees alone. So what it is, not to get all technical, I'm sorry, I know this stuff.
Oh,
um,
you were the perfect person to come up here because we need to teach that knowledge that you have. You need to give to us so we don't go through bullshit like this or can understand why we go through this.
Well,
So go
if,
ahead.
if yeah, if I could chime in real quick, I like what you was explaining because he's absolutely right, and also the system operates on what's called fractional banking, right? And they don't, and our people don't understand that.
mm-mm, yeah, and you're right, and
Hold
pretty
on,
much to
guys.
this. Go ahead.
No, hold on, True. I'm sorry to interrupt, but let me go ahead and introduce Israel. He's been sitting there very patiently and quietly. Israel, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey,
Tell
baby, you
people
know
where
I'm
we can
family.
find
You,
you.
you know I'm family. You ain't got to introduce me. I'm going to hang out with you. How's everybody doing on the panel?
What's up? What's up?
Good
We
conversation.
good,
Good
but my
conversation.
people don't. Well, no, because you my shows enough to know who you are. So I guess you're right, Israel. So, but thank you for coming. I really do appreciate your support because I know you always got some good shit to say. But let me my comments are everybody. Grace, you should just come up here, boo. Aren't your fingers? Oh, you're probably at work. Never mind. Yeah, you're at work right now. I kind of know your schedule. So let me show this comment. It says Cyber said, whenever somebody asks me what I do, I always tell them it kind of depends on the circumstances. Okay. You're being evasive there. That was good. That was good. you know. And then Grace said, I'm not educated enough about banks as of yet. So what exactly are you able to use a bank gift card for? Coffee and kindness? I'm confused. It's some bullshit. It's probably a Visa gift card that they gave her just to make her, just to shut her up. Just to shut her up. And then I got angry snowman saying what it do as cyber. And then salute to Israel, and then everybody just saying hi to everybody. Hey, Chuck, da da da. Guys, don't forget, please subscribe, and share. But you got 3 channels to do that too. Oh, and True, I wanted to let you know, and maybe you can get with JVJ. JVJ Network is a network that Jay from Let's Talk Jay, he is getting a bunch of podcasters together to do
Mhm.
their shows on his network. And
Okay.
I was on his network at the beginning of when I started my channel, but I had to take a hiatus, and now I'm wanting to come back because it's a good thing. I've met a lot of good, cool people through his channel. People have met me through his channel. So we all are working together. Again, we're all creating a buffet so we can all eat. Your subscribers will come over here and
Mm.
subscribe to the network. So if this is something that you think you're interested in, stay active, and I'll let him know about you. And you never know, because you do have some good topics that you talk about as well.
Well, thank
So
you.
with that being said, of course, you guys, I have a couple videos that I want to show, but the first thing I want to get into is, guys, I want to tell you my personal experience that I went through. Okay. And it's funny because this is something, it was an experiment. I grew up always listening to my dad saying, baby, you got the best of both worlds. You got the best of both worlds. Because if anybody knows me, I am mixed, I am biracial. But what he didn't understand was that I was his only child with color. He had 2 daughters from his first marriage, and his first wife was full Italian. So they were fair skinned, green, blue eyes, brown hair. Then my brother came out like my father, fair skin, green eyes, dark hair, but I look like my mom. I'm the only one she's Dominican, and I'm the only one with melanated skin. But the thing is, he didn't understand. He thought because I carried his last name that I carried the same clout that he did. Yes, my dad is your typical rags to riches story. Okay. And he made it, and I grew up Spoiled rich kid. Yes, I did, but he humbled me at the same time. But long story short, he didn't understand some of my struggles. He didn't understand that I got racism from both sides, from the white people and from the black people, Hispanic. It was just all over. So I proposed to him, let's do an experiment, Dad. He was like, what are you talking about? He was like, we're gonna send Peter, that's my brother, bless his soul. We're gonna send him to the bank with a $5,000 check, and we're gonna see just how easy he goes in and out and cashes this check. My brother had his exact same name, Junior. He was just a junior. And then, Dad, I'm gonna go in to the bank, same check amount and everything, and I bet you that $5,000 that there's going to be trouble. Oh, no way. Not no daughter of mine. I just imagine an Italian guy, not no daughter of mine. I got plenty of money in that bank. They better fucking cash that check. And I said, okay, so we got a deal now. If I have problems with this check, I get to keep the 5K, right? He was so confident that he agreed to it because he thought that I wasn't gonna. And then my brother was like, well, what do I get out of this? I said, I'll give you a thousand out of the five just for participating. And I told my brother, I need you to dress in beach shorts, flip-flops, just as worse as possible as you could dress, but make it, just as worse as possible as you could dress. Hold on. Sorry, guys. So make a long story short, my brother went in. He was out in less than 2 minutes, cashed a $5,000 check, had his $5,000, got in the car, and came home. I didn't go right away. I waited 2 weeks later. I asked my mom, I need my passport and I need my social security card. She was like, why? And I told her what was going on. She was like, okay, but don't lose it. Da, da, da. I went to the bank in my high school Catholic uniform. I even wore my blazer that day. I had my penny loafers. I was legit. I just thought I was the shit. I was a papier. You know what I'm saying? I'm going in there and they're going to cash me that check. And I called my dad. I said, Dad, be close to the phone and have your shoes on because it's about to go down. He was like, oh, forget about it. I'm going to be here. I'm cooking right now. I said, okay. So I go to the bank. Right after school, I got my book bag. Just imagine your typical Catholic high school uniform. I go to the lady. I give her the check. I give her my ID because I was driving at the time. I had my driver's license. And this is her. And I swear to God, I would never forget this. She looks at the check. She looks at me. She looks at the check. She looks at me. She looks at the ID. She looks at the check. She looks at me. She looks at me. She looks at it. And I said, is there a problem? She was like, no. I'm just wondering what a kid your age is doing with a $5,000 check. And I was sassy I was really sassy back then. I said, does that matter? My account has enough money to cover the check, so there shouldn't be a problem. Well, the amount of this check, I'm going to have to verify it. I said, okay, no problem. So she, exactly, verify. So she goes to the head teller. And now, they walk all the way down there. And they're looking at the check. They're talking. They turn around and look at me. They're looking at the check. They look at me again. And now I'm being an asshole. Now I'm waving, And now they get the branch manager involved. So the branch manager comes and says, do you happen to have any more forms of ID? I said, of course I do, because I knew y'all were going to do this bullshit. So I gave my social security number. I gave them my passport. I gave them everything. Granted, I had $17,000 in my own personal account. So it's not like the check couldn't cover. I could see if I had $50 in the account, but I had I had just finished my Sweet 16. I had gotten money. I'm sitting on 17 stacks. Okay. And they said, well, we can't cash this check. We don't have that. It's late in the afternoon, which it was late in the afternoon because it was after school, but you're going to have to come back tomorrow. I said, I'm not coming back tomorrow. I need my money today. And I'm going to tell you something right now. If I call the person that wrote this check out to me, there's going to be trouble. But what do you mean? I said, it's either you cash this check and I leave quietly, or I make that phone call, and I'm telling you, he's going to close his account. Because I was a daddy's girl, and he's going to defend me till the end. So I called Dad and I made the phone call. I said, Daddy, your presence is needed. Why? I said, because I told you I'm black. They're not going to cash the check. Okay, I'm melanated. I didn't use that word, but you know, I went. He just didn't understand it, and the fact that I had the honor and privilege to teach my father something about life, because he really was blind to it. He really didn't think that I went through things like this. So my dad didn't dress like a rich guy. He was older. He had his New Balance sneakers on, his jeans and flannel shirt. I mean, when he had to do it up, he did. But he was just your regular, typical guy. And I'm sitting now in the lobby waiting for him, and I'm laughing at them because I know what's about to go down. I'm like, yeah, ooh. I'm like, ooh, somebody in trouble. Remember, I'm only 16 years old. I'm tripping on them. My dad comes in, the war. He was like, I need to speak to whoever's running this fucking circus. I need to speak to the ringleader. And then as soon as he passed me, I got up and I was walking behind him. And when they realized Mr. Papia, they were like, Mr. Papia, what are you doing here? How can I help you? What do you need? He was like, what I need for you to do is to fucking get all my money out of this bank, because you guys just humiliated, embarrassed my baby. This is my daughter. And they looked at me, they looked at him, and they looked at the check. They were like, oh my God, but we didn't know. I said, do you not see that her last name is Papia too? Do you not see that she had money in her account to cover the check? What's the fucking problem? Oh, she tried to tell me. She tried to tell me because of her skin color, you guys would do this. I'll tell you what, I'll be back here at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and I want all my fucking money, and I'm closing all 7 accounts. No, Mr. Papia, don't do that. We're going to have to order the money. We're going to need an armored truck. He was like, I don't give a shit what you got to do, but you don't do this to customers, and you sure as hell don't do it to my baby girl. And my dad literally cried at the table that night. He was like, baby, I'm sorry. I didn't know. And I said, Dad, yeah, I get it from both ends. Dad, I get my ass whooped in school just because I have light skin and long hair from the black girls. So it's like, he was like, you really opened my eyes. I really did not understand it or can comprehend it. And a lot of white people don't experience that. They don't realize what we go through. They don't realize the havoc. I mean, just to go into the bank, something as simple as doing a transaction, there's a possibility that the cops are going to be called, and and then, like you said, the power of the pen, because God forbid if we get loud. Oh, here's the angry black woman. Here's the angry black man. We got to call the cops. I'm threatened for my life. I'm scared. They got a gun. I mean, it's just like, really?
You just gotta, yeah. No, go, I'm sorry.
People are just trying to cash your checks. And I think what it is too, they got beef, because to them, we're not supposed to have this kind of money.
That's what I was speaking to. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry that happened to you. That's happened to me before. I had something similar happen a few years ago. And I learned this whole movement of the power of the pen. I walked into a Wells Fargo. I had a job I did. My customer paid me. Check was like, it wasn't even a lot. It was like $8,800, give or take. And I was in sweats, went to a Wells Fargo. It was a Wells Fargo check. Now, policy states that if a check is written off of an actual bank, so if it's a Wells Fargo check, it's a Wells Fargo bank, they're supposed to honor that check.
Even if you're not a customer of theirs.
Not a customer. Now, they'll tell you, oh, we have individual bank policy. It's discretionary, all that BS. You just got to learn the laws of how banks and stuff work. Exactly. But I did understand the power of the pen. So I walked in, same thing. gave him a check, gave him my ID, and I chilled. Once I seen another teller moving, I was like, yep, about to be some BS. I know what's happening, but I'm prepared for it. I dealt with the first teller. She called over her manager. They started giving me static. I asked, hey, what's going on? They were like, well, we're just having a hard time, verifying this check. I said, well, I got a few minutes. Take your time. Call who you need to call. Long story short, they told me they're not going to cash a check. And I said, you know what? And there was attitude. When I walked up originally, they weren't even congregating business. It was like a bunch of chuckling, bunch of high school girl type of things going on. So it was very unprofessional. So I asked for the cashier's, the teller's name. I asked for the banker's name, and I asked for the branch manager's name. Went home and I drafted an email. And I told them before I left, I said, don't get comfortable because you're not going to be working at this location very long. And they laughed. I went home, I wrote a beautiful email to the regional branch manager of Wells Fargo, and I got a call in 2 days. Guy called me, I know how to use my words. So he apologized. He said, Mr. Rucker, this is totally unprofessional. He said, I run every Wells Fargo from here to Sacramento on down to San Diego. He said, I am personally going to investigate the situation. I'm going to keep you abreast of the situation. But I promise you, those 2 ladies that were rude to you will not be working at a full branch. I'm going to send them to the little BS branches at the Vons and the pavilions, and they're going to be on crab duty just because they disrespected you. And I said, yeah. And when in my letter, I explained to them that I had contracts with several prominent businesses in the region that I do business with personally. So they're missing out on future expansion monetarily, all because you have ignorant people who don't know how to conduct business. So I think that our culture has to learn that the world as a whole does not move through emotion. If you want something to get done, it was imperative to learn how policies work. It is imperative to know how to use the pen. The pen now is an email, and you need to contact the right people, get names, get badge numbers, whatever it is you need.
Absolutely, that's right.
Yeah, and you need to stay consistent because I promise you, they're used to us crying and screaming and yelling and getting belligerent. They're used to that. What they are not used to is knowing how to use certain words that are going to bring shame and certain types of guilt to their overall ranking. We live in a society now that reviews are so powerful that if you can ding their star rating,
exactly,
it messes up business. And that's how you have to talk to these institutions and organizations.
Exactly. I wanted to say, I wanted to circle back to what Grace was talking about when she was talking about how her dad said, hey, I'm closing out all my accounts. I want my money tomorrow. Well, see, that what I was saying earlier was that's part of the fractional banking system, right? Because the entire banking system operates on fractional banking. So when you have someone that has, let's say, $1 million, and he says, I want my money now, more times than not, they're not going to have it now. So it's going to take them time because, as True said earlier, when you're depositing money, they're putting some over here, they're spreading it all out, right? So if you have, if you're going to do a large transaction, it's going to take them a while to get it. But what they don't want to happen is what your dad said, right? That's what they don't want to happen, because then that's major business loss.
He has 7 accounts there. Okay, I'm not going to tell you guys the amount, but it was a significant amount of money where he understood that he would have to come back the next day to get that money because they would have had to order that.
Of course.
And since we drove separate cars, he was like, baby girl, you go home. I'm going to another bank to open up accounts to have this money ready to flow through, and and I laughed at him. I said, you see, this could have been handled so much easier, so much better if you guys would have just did your job. I had everything. I had 3 forms of ID. I had money to cover the check. The check was written from my father, which he had money to cover the check, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough because of this.
Of course. And just to explain I'm sorry, go ahead.
And this happened in 1990. This happened in 92 when I was a senior in high school. And we're in 2023 and we're still throwing little old ladies in jail.
Yeah.
Over $600 that she deposited in a faulty ATM that they acknowledge. Now, listen to the moronic. So over $600, now you're gonna get sued for millions.
Yeah, happens all the time.
I read. Oh, here we go. In 2011, Bank of America had to pay out $300 million in fines for discrimination.
That's
And I'm
right.
gonna tell you guys something right now, and I don't give a shit. I do credit repair. And the first thing I tell people is get their money out of Bank of America and Wells Fargo. Those are not good banks for people like us. Oh, that look like us. Those are Jewish based owned banks, and they don't give a fuck about people that look like us. And I'm gonna put it out here right now, and I don't care. They don't. The only time Bank of America ever noticed me is when I was pulling out all my money, because when I was getting my credit fixed, my credit repair specialist told me, pull it now.
Yeah.
And I've been a customer of Bank of America for years, had money flowing there, had my limousine company. They never offered me anything, never offered to refinance my home, was a homeowner for 17 years, didn't do shit. The only time I mattered is when I was wanting to close my account.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my credit repair specialist said, you need to go to the little smaller banks because they want your business.
And
Because
credit
they know that you're hungry, they know that you want to do business, and that you're going to bring business to them. These big ass banks like Wells Fargo and Bank of America, JP Chase,
Morgan, yeah,
they do not give a shit about us. $300 million in fines for discrimination.
Yeah. And then to explain what Gary is talking about, fractional banking for the audience, and I'll keep it real simple. Fractional banking is just a practice of leverage. So what banks do is they pretty much forecast what they're going to produce in a month cycle. So that's why you mess up monetary flow. All banks work this way. They all work this way. So when they have accounts, mortgages, car loans, personal loans, that money is not necessarily intangible asset to them. What they do is they, contact the Fed. They say we have X amount of accounts equivalent to this, and they're borrowing on future earnings. This is why when you disrupt what your dad did, it disrupts the system. They lose money because the banks the way they make money is by products, what they call products. So a product could be a debit card, a product could be a debit card, a product could be a mortgage. So what they try to do is, this is why they'll open up a checking and they'll immediately offer you a savings as well. That's 2 products. Then on top of that, if they can get a credit card from you, that's 3 products. So what happens is that they're attaching essentially 3 products to you. Now that it gives them more earning potential. That's how banks work. I personally hate banks. I think they're stupid. You just got to know how to manipulate them for your own personal uses.
And never have all your money in one bank.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Also, too, think about if most people paid all their credit card bills on time, banks would make no money, right? They make money off the late fees
and the revolving credit and the revolving balance that you have.
So if everybody was responsible or even semi-responsible and paid on time, they're not gonna make any money.
Yeah.
You know how much money they rack up from late fees? Oh my God.
You're absolutely right. And so it says here, and then this is what interests me. Banks are required to complete an annual diversity training. What the fuck is that about? What is that? A diversity training? You have to learn how to, and it's funny because I remember when I became a manager, I was only 18 years old, and I'm here telling people 2-3 times my age what to do. And I had such a harsh New York accent that people actually thought I was being rude to them, and I wasn't. They sent me to a diversity training, and it was bullshit. It was how to tone it down. It was how to use different words versus the words that I was using. But what are you going to tell somebody from a bank? It's really like black and white. If Gary comes in and wants to cash a check for $10,000, and everything looks legit. What's the problem? Now, I get it. A lot of banks get fraudulent checks. I get it. Do your verification, do what you got to do. But if you know this customer and you know they got the money to cover the check and they got 5,000 forms of ID, what is the problem? What are you going to teach them in diversity training? What is there to teach?
You know,
I
the
mean,
the interesting thing is that well, first, you know, it's you know when it's so the diversity and inclusion training is they want to have their staff or management is supposed to be able to deal with different people, right? You know, learn how to deal with different cultures or be respectful of different cultures. So that's why you see in corporate now all these diversity, you know, and inclusion, either managers or senior vice president or what have you. But that's all it is, right? It's someone that that has a staff of people to make sure that the people in the company is trained on how to deal with different in different is trained how to deal with different cultures and stuff like that. So yeah, it's but I mean in
so
this day and age,
you have to train me how to be pleasant to a black person versus a white
well,
person versus a
it shouldn't
Hispanic
have to be
person.
that, but you know,
It,
it shouldn't have to it shouldn't have to be that. But this is unfortunately what we're dealing in, right? Because clearly, a lot of people, they, for whatever, if it's their upbringing, if it's how mom and dad treated it, you know, how mom and dad looked at other ethnicities and races and stuff like that. So now it is because, you know, it should not be if we're going in a bank and we want to deposit a check, it should not be a problem. Or if we want to take out money, it should not be a problem. But unfortunately, in this day and age, you know, this is what it is. One thing I can say is though, for a number of years, I used to work at an event called Black Expo USA, and we used to tour the whole country. And one of the things, and one of the partners that we had was Chase, and and I will say that they would do workshops in the community to make sure Black people really understood. Now, the thing about that is that unfortunately, a lot of Black people didn't come out to really understand what was going on. But it's definitely important that our people, you know, our people really understand how these banks work, because they make money off of us. Like, so you can make money off of our money, right, and disrespect us. That doesn't work.
that's crazy. Let me introduce. Hi, Grace. How are you? Thank you for coming on
Hi,
the panel,
darling.
and thank you for keeping your support. I really do appreciate it. I realized you was at work, so you must have just got home, right?
Yeah, yeah. I had
Okay,
to feed
so
like
what?
80,000 animals. I missed some stuff on the drive home.
I hear you. So what do you have to say about this, Ma?
I caught it when you were talking about like diversity training, and honestly, that's just a to do. It seems like for companies, it's not genuine. It's like a task. Because if it was genuine, then they would genuinely put the right people in position to give that training. And when Becky tells you how to handle Yolanda when she's mad, like I feel like you're not preparing me for Yolanda with Becky. You're not doing Becky don't know crap about Yolanda.
So
You know what I'm
Yolanda
saying?
need
Like
to tell you about Yolanda.
I'm saying, and if there's like, okay, like you're saying, like if it's a regular customer, okay, say I'm working there, I'm new. I don't know this is a regular customer. I need to treat every one of them the same. So you know what? I need all your IDs and all your information and everything, whether you're white, black, Caucasian, Asian, whatever. I'm gonna need all the information. But what would be helpful is if somebody who's been a veteran working at that bank sees Eugene walk through the door, they're like, hey man, hi Eugene. Yeah, hey sis, he's been here for like 60 years, man. He's good people. Give me a heads up so I treat Eugene correctly. That would be the best diversity training you can give me.
Uh, Absolutely. Hey, that's one of our good ones. You know, that's VIP, something. Even
Yeah.
though you're right, we should be treating everybody the same, but it's just crazy. It really is. Israel, you've been kind of quiet over there. You have anything to say on this topic? Anything you want to add on to piggyback or whatever? No? Going once? Going twice?
I'll chime in a minute. I just stepped away for a second.
No problem. So hold on, guys. You know me. So I got a couple videos. Like I said, I couldn't show you the original video of this little old lady because Fox News owns the story, and you old guys already know about that. So I'm not trying to get into that because I'm not being monetized right now. It wouldn't really affect me. But I am on JVJ Network, and he also suggested that I don't get used to using videos that I could possibly not get monetized on. He's like, just don't use it at all. Just tell the story. But I do have a couple ones. So hold on one second. Let me set it up. Give me just a minute. And let's see. Share. We're gonna
filed a lawsuit against Chase Bank for racial discrimination for refusing to deposit her check or open a new account for her. Dr. Mitchell Stewart wanted to deposit a $16,000 check from her employer associates at the bank, and they began to question her age, her occupation, and the check's validity. Ultimately, her service. She joins us right now, Dr. Malika Mitchell Stewart, as well as her attorney, Justin Moore. Glad to have both of you here. So, okay. So, Malika, what city was this in?
This was in Sugar Land, Texas.
Southern states.
Of
Right,
Houston.
Gary?
Yes.
So
See?
you
See the
go to the
location?
bank and how, okay. So you go to the bank, you got a check, and you got an ID. On your ID, take a driver's license. Are you
Yes.
Are you from Texas?
Yes, born
Okay.
and raised, Houston, Texas.
Cool. So you got a Texas driver's which has your date of birth on it, which has all of your information. You go to the counter.
So what happened was I signed up to be seated with a specialist who can help me open an account. They call my name back. I go down and sit with her at her desk. She that I want to deposit this check into a new bank account with you all. And she takes my check and then she looks at me and then starts looking at the check and just starts to ask me questions like, what do I do for a living? You know, what company do you work for? Asking my age and all these different questions, and then proceeds to say that this is probably a fake. And she wants to go talk to someone else to get, I guess, further.
Wait, she says this is probably a fake check.
Mm-hmm.
How did she arrive at that?
I don't know. And that's why I was asking all the questions. And that's when she went to go get someone who I assumed was the bank manager to come talk to me as well. But actually was just a lead teller that also came and talked to me. And they just said that it looks like a fraudulent check and we're going to open a bank account and we're not going to let you deposit.
Now, first of all, were both of these folks white? What were they?
Mm-hmm. So one was white and one was Indian.
Okay. Now, first of all, last time I even looked at a physical check, been a long time. I don't even write checks anymore. But checks have routing numbers on them.
Mm-hmm.
Check, you had the name of the company. If they actually questioned it, they could have actually called the company and says, hi, I'm so-and-so. Dr. Stewart says she works with you. We just want to verify employment. They could have actually done that. But they didn't do any of that.
They did none of that. They just said, I feel uncomfortable and we're not further.
All right. Did the bank manager?
I think the video stopped.
Hold on a second. Sorry. I was messing Hold on.
I work at this opened in Houston now. This is my sign-on bonus. I can show you documentation of the correspondence between me and my office. Whatever information you need, I showed them a business card. I was just trying to give them all the information they needed. I thought they would believe me and believe the validity of the check. So I tried my best to give them as much information, but they still just kept saying, we feel uncomfortable and we're not going to deposit the check or open a bank account for you.
So here's a statement the bank sent. Pull it up, please. We take this matter very seriously and are investigating the situation. We have reached out to Dr. Mitchell Stewart to better understand what happened and apologize for her experience. Justin, have y'all heard from them?
We've heard attorneys, and it's been a direct response from the lawsuit being filed. And, with them responding to the lawsuit, they have expressed some regret as to what happened. But we have to realize that Dr. Mitchell Stewart filed a complaint at the bank a week after this incident occurred. So the incident occurred December 18th of 2021. She filed a complaint December 27th, almost 30 days, and she hasn't heard anything from the bank until this case started to go viral on social media. When the bank started to send overtures about some sort of so we believe if there was an apology, which the bank has profusely apologized to multiple media outlets in response to media requests, we believe that those apologies are only coming from the fact that this story has gotten a lot of attention. And they basically shirked their responsibility to respond to the complaint that she filed, and they lost out on their opportunity to apologize then throughout that complaint process.
The thing that's really interesting here, Dr. Stewart, is they can deposit the check and they can place a hold on your account, no activities whatsoever for 5 or 10 days to see if the check clears.
That's exactly my sentiment. I tried to ask them, is there a way that you can deposit the check, hold the funds? I won't touch any of it. I won't use a card. You can keep the debit card that you, regardless, they're mailed out to you, so I wouldn't have had it for a few days anyway. But I wasn't really verified, and they weren't hearing that either.
Justin had a lot of issues before when it comes to Black folks. They've had employees file racial discrimination lawsuits against them. They've had examples like this. I remember a story of a brother in, I think it was Arizona, who they were trying to steer him away from, I think it was a former athlete who had $1,000 they wanted to invest, and they gave him a hell of a time as well. And so, they've got their diversity and equity inclusion programs, things along those lines. But you would think, and it's been actually moving faster when it comes to this story. If they heard,
I mean, you would presume that. I think Chase's legacy of racism goes far beyond what's happened in our contemporary times. This bank has financed slavery, and I think that's a story that gets lost in translation. I mean, through their Black Pathways program and things of that nature, I think Chase is an equitable company, but we know that they have a long legacy of race, and it's bearing itself out now with the redlining that they're participating in by denying Black folks financial services at their branches around this country. So there is a pattern and practice that not only exists today, but it's existed for centuries now. So I'm not shocked at all that Chase hasn't come to the table with an apology that has some level of contrition to it and has some type of substantial.
Okay, guys. So that give you to see about that video. Let me just go ahead and okay. But I mentioned one of these, Wells Fargo and Bank of America. You have to do your research wherever you decide to do your banking, because You don't want to go through things like this. And salute to you, PA Texas. Thank you for coming through. I bet you were shocked when you saw me on the JVJ network, but I do appreciate you coming through. And he says, yeah, Chase will hold the check until it clears. They have done that to me. But then he came back and said, not anymore, because I have a banking relationship with them now. When I first started, they would hold the check and then they hold part of the check. And then they said, screw it. This dude is earning. Well, yeah, because you've built a rapport with them now and they know you, but don't get too comfortable, because at any moment they can, what if they change the tellers that were there and that know you? They transfer the bank manager that you have a good relationship with. I still don't trust it, and I don't trust them, because I've just gone through too much, and it's not right. And I really feel that the only way that this is going to change, we have to make the change. We need more Black owned banks. And with the amount of money that a lot of African Americans and Latinos, we have enough rich people. I mean, why can't Tyler Perry open up a bank? Why can't Beyonce and Jay-Z? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot that we can do to unite, but we choose not to. And this is why we're going through what we're going through still in 2023. What do you guys think about that?
I find it funny that they mention it was Chase, because I know at one point in time I got a letter, and I don't bank with Chase. I got a letter in the mail, and it was a scam. Okay. And it was a money order. Someone sent me a money order from Chase Bank for $5,000. I walked into the Chase Bank and I was like, hey, is this legit? And the teller behind the counter was like, yeah, I can cash that for you right now. And I said, hold on. Can I talk to the manager? And so she went and got the manager. The manager looked it over, took her a minute, and then she came back and she said, actually, that's a scam that's been going out. And had you cashed that, you would have had to pay back all that money. You would have ended up with charges and all this because of the scam. Okay, but my point is, I didn't have any problems until I made a problem. They would have cashed it, no problem.
So they create the problem, and then they dump the problem on you and charge you fees. See, it's some bullshit.
I mean, they were ready and willing. They were ready and willing to cash it for me. Now I kind of wonder if management would have gotten involved had I looked more like my mom.
True. You're absolutely right. And PA comes back and says, hold on. He says, I know strippers that opened up accounts at Chase, but in Sugar Land, Texas, it's a little racist down there, and they hate that affluent minorities have moved down there for decades. That's the same thing Gary said. And
but Grace, this is what I said. Location. Happening. Look at where it's happening. Like, I think that in your, in the South and in the sort of Midwest, if you're a Black person that has money, you're going to run into these racist bank managers that's going to have issues. Now, if you're in a major city, you're probably not going to have that kind of problem, because in major cities, a lot of Black people are making a lot of money. So it's not uncommon for a Black person to go into a bank and want to deposit 10 grand or take out 20 grand or deposit 100 grand or something like that. But these smaller cities.
So you're saying that in Atlanta, that's the norm versus in Sugar
I lived in
Land.
Atlanta. Look, I lived in Atlanta for 5 years, but that was, I lived back in, was it 94, 95 and stuff, where Atlanta was coming up, right? It was becoming sort of, I guess, the rich Black South, right? So, but there was still, in the city itself, it was cool. But when you went to the outskirts of like Cobb County and Fulton County, racist as fuck.
How's Gwinnett County? Because that's where I'm at.
And in Gwinnett, well, they were like, I never had any issues there, because I got cousins out there, and they never had any issues there. But I know in Fulton County, and that now I'm talking about back in 94, 95, 96. Back then, Fulton County and Cobb County, racist as fuck.
But still, in 2023, are we ever going to get over this shit?
You know, unfortunately, we're going to have people. I think that, you know, racism in that sense in certain places is unfortunately going to keep on happening, because there are going to be some people that just because a minority is making more money than them, they're going to have an issue, right? Because clearly we're not supposed to be making more money than, in some of their minds, right? We're not supposed to be making any, more money than them. We're not supposed to be able to, and not only making more money than them, doing it legitimately, right? We're not supposed to be business owners, right? Right? We're not supposed to be able to speak properly, right? We're not supposed to be educated. Don't you ever notice how shocked they are when they see because I know in some of the circles that I've traveled in, oh, you speak so well. Oh, I didn't know you were in investment banking. All this other shit. So they don't expect that, right?
Yeah.
So they expect us to be what I guess traditionally
What's portrayed in the media
is what's portrayed.
Yeah, I think it just speaks to, and it's, I don't know if it's going to change in our lifetime. We can be optimistic. I think that, again, the only way to combat it is that our communities of color have to be more conscious of what society expects. And I think, I think you just have to educate yourself on how policies work. I love business. I think business is one of those kind of equalizers in the world, because at the end of the day, it's green, right? I had a situation that was relative to this some years ago when I stayed in Vegas with a couple of friends of mine. I ended up booking a suite, and it was just 2 beds. It was 3 of us, and I wasn't sleeping in the bed with no grown man. So I called down to management, and I, requested a rollaway. And they told me that the rollaway bed was not permissible because of the square footage of the room. And the room was huge. Long story short, I called down a few times. They gave me some static. Talked to the managers, gave me some static. So I took it a step further because I generally understand how this works. So I called the fire chief of the city, and then I called the fire chief of the state. And I talked to both of them. And it's ironic that both of their names were John. And I needed the codes for the fire regulations based on movable furniture. They sent me, the links. I read it, called down to the front desk. They gave me the same static. Demanded to talk to the general manager. And I went downstairs and I told them that this is how much we were spending this night. I spoke to the fire chiefs of not only the state, but the city. And they told me that you guys are lying. So now I need you to tell me what you're going to do about lying to me, because you instructed not only one, but a few of your associates to lie to a customer. Now, I'm cold with the email. I'm cold with knowing how to get online and making this particular organization seem like you guys are racially profiling. So I need you to do something for me that's going to make me very, very happy. And not only did they give us passes to the Blue Man Group, and we got some buffet tickets, they upgraded our suite to the penthouse. We didn't pay a dime. I never raised my voice. I never screamed or yelled. But what I've learned is that you have to understand how business works, how policies work. You can't speak with just emotion. You have to have information, correspondence, because they will move mountains to not get a bad review, especially something in a heightened racial profile, season that we're in. Anything you say that is like, oh, we're being profiled, and it can make some kind of news or headline. So you just got to know how to move, and
You said something very important. It's like they know that a lot of us, we speak from emotion. Like we get upset, we're going to act. So they waiting for us to yell and scream and all the crazy shit, right? Because that's what they're accustomed. That's what they're accustomed to seeing. So when they come across one of us that's able to articulate and talk business and understand how the chain of command works, if you will, or the corporate structure works, then oh, hey, you know what? We're sorry. We'll give you whatever you want. We'll give you the penthouse, all of that. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Now they're kissing your ass. But my thing is why did it have to go to that? Why can't you just give customer service the way you're supposed to?
I think you have to, and I'm not saying it's right, I think that there's just been, and I wasn't alive then, so this is just my theory. I think that for so long, brown and black people are so happy and they celebrate small victories. Just
Yep.
having a bank and
I totally agree with you.
yeah, I
So
think just having
we're complacent with mediocrity. Is that
Pretty
what
much.
you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah. So that has become an ingrained expectation across all industries. That as long as you're allowed in the building for someone of color, you're fine. You're not going to necessarily ruffle the feathers. Where I have friends who are, from affluent backgrounds, they got old money, they have money, and they still have high expectations. And so it's an attitude, it's understanding how things flow, it's understanding that I'm not just the customer. You got to look at yourself as an individual customer, but you got to look at yourself as the community. Our actual buying power, I don't know if you've researched it. They said the Black community generates like $3 trillion or so a year. That if they were to combine all their resources, we'd be like one of the 8th superpowers of the world from a monetary perspective. And because I understand some of these things, I don't treat it just like it's just me. I'm looking at it like someone else gonna come in here that look like me. So it's all of those things. But that's really why they don't have to do much to get us to be pleased. That's why I'm saying they'll throw you, comp something or maybe a gift card. And some of those you have to, kind of exercise maturity and discernment. Some of it is worth a little bit, but depending on the offense, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So
now, True, let me ask you something. After you got all those goodies and extras, did you still push an email or you let it fly?
I pushed the email to make them aware of the offense, but I did let it slide because I accomplished what I needed to at that moment. And yeah, I accomplished what I needed to. I wasn't ultimately trying to really get much other than a rollaway bed. I ended up getting penthouse suite, a free weekend, buffets. We got access to their 5-star lounge. I got way more than what I bargained for. I literally just want to sleep comfortable. So, but I did send an email to corporate letting them know about the situation. And they called me a few days later, asked me if the service was to their satisfactory. And I explained to them that I believe that they just need to be a little bit more conscientious of certain conversations people are having. I said, I called down to the desk several times. Somebody should have made it a personal, their personal duty to figure out why this particular customer is requesting this particular, accommodation and not just brushing it off. But they're used to that. And that's just corporate structure. Anytime you go anywhere, if you don't make enough noise the right way, then they assume that you're going to burn out. And most people do. They just, suffer and not in silence. They'll complain to their small circle of friends or whatever, and then it'll fizzle out. And they bank on that. They bank on it. It's like, yeah, they're not going to do anything. You don't have to yell. You don't have to protest. Just get on that email, find out who you need to talk to, and send the right words.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's the,
Go ahead, Gary.
Clearly, so there's the, there's like the store manager, but then also there's the regional manager, right? So, so once you understand how those things work and you know how to talk to those people, they'll move mountains, right? They'll move mountains. But most of our people don't do that. They'll get mad at the salesperson, which in some cases the salesperson may be wrong, but the salesperson or even the store manager should know better, right? Because they're a store manager. But if they don't, then you got to go up. And I think that a lot of our people we want instant. We want the problem fixed instantly. Now, to me, in business, if you hire somebody to do X, Y, and Z, and this is what their position is, then I expect them to do that. Now, there's some places where I'm sure some of you all have experienced. Well, you may have a new person working and somebody may be with them and say, hey, just take it easy with them. This is their first day. This is their second day. I can respect that. But when you have someone that's been there, that's being disrespectful, that's not flying. Or just ignoring you or just talking to you any old way, then yeah, that's not going to fly.
There's the bare minimum happening in many different jobs, but especially in customer service, and that's one thing that that I love customer service. I excel at customer service. I get very angry when I don't get exceptional customer service. Because, you know, it's kind of like you hold somebody to the standard you hold yourself to. If you don't hold people accountable, then what's to make them do better? You know what I mean? The media has recycled racism. Okay, so it's still going around. It's tweaked here and there. For instance, yeah, you can go on YouTube and see a bunch of Karens or white women acting a fool. But on the news, you're gonna see Black people acting a fool. Like it's what's being thrown out there. And so people need to be educated that all people can act a fool, and everybody needs to be held to a higher standard than they even give themselves. And like I know I was born on Guam. We moved to California in my early teens. My mom, she looks Mexican. She think of a Hawaiian. That's what my mom looks like. I don't look nothing like this woman. We've gone to multiple stores, and I'm talking way before we get to the checkout counter. The person that works there is like, excuse me, are you gonna pay for those items? Okay. The moment my mom encounters any type of racism like that, bet I'm gonna need to talk to your manager. I'm gonna need your district manager. I will make emails. It's the way that you throw your fit. And if you throw your fit with class, my mother has shut down stores. Like the next week, they're out of business. They're gone because she doesn't accept that. She's like, look, I will call every news station out here and I will make sure that they know how you treated me. You know, my mom is a very educated woman, very smart woman. She sits behind a computer all day and makes almost the same amount as a doctor. Okay, very smart lady. She doesn't have to deal with that, and she's not going to. And the thing is, whether you work at a McDonald's or as a doctor, do not accept that passive racism. And you know when you get it, so speak on it. And you don't throw a fit, don't speak emotionally. Okay, speak logically. Look at somebody, put them in your shoe. Okay, how would you feel had I done this to you? And if they don't get it, then you tell the person that will hold them accountable. And you tell the person that will hold that person accountable. And if you have to, you hold that whole company accountable.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I know that's right.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Guys, I out there. So give me just a minute. Hold on, full screen. Come on. Here we go. Play.
Requesting. My name is Pete Bauer. I'm the financial center manager. You wanted us to order some cash for you.
You guys talk like it's a secret. Yes, I want 100,000.
Okay. So we can have that available to you by Tuesday of next week.
I'd gladly pay you Tuesday.
Is there any way to have my money quicker? I don't have till Tuesday of next week.
There's not a way that we can help facilitate that any faster. The only other way that we can do this is we can get you a cashier's check for it.
I need cash. I don't need a cashier's check. See, this is the problem with the banking financial industry is like, you guys have like access to all my money. Like right now, I want to be able to do something with my money, and I need it.
Okay. And we're not keeping it from you.
Yes, you are.
But in cash, you're going to have us order that so that we have enough cash for all of our other clientele.
Fractional banking, you see?
I have actual money in the bank. Like this is a scam.
Yeah.
But today is Thursday, right? Yes. Today is Thursday, so there should be time between now and tomorrow or Saturday where you guys can make calls to all these different branches out here to supply a banking customer. Because here's going to be the issue. If you don't give me my money, I'm going to close this account today. Because this is the second time I'll come into the bank and try to get money, and you guys play this game with me. See, it's ridiculous that I can have that type of capital in the dang on bank and not get the respect where I can come and pull my own money out. That's my hard-earned money. But it's every time I go into a financial industry, bank, I did this in Vegas, I've done this in several places. You guys don't give me my money. Correct. Like, it doesn't matter if it's 10,000, 20,000. You guys guys always have an excuse not to give me my money.
Okay, sir. I'm giving you the options that we have available to you. Not any one small institution is going to have.
This isn't Bank of America isn't a small credit union.
There we go, Bank of America.
You're escalating this, and there's no
I am escalating
now we're
because I can't get my money.
Correct. You can in the form of a cashier's check. We absolutely provide
What type of sense does that make for me to get a cashier's check when I go to the bank? I don't need a check.
So you're not walking around with $100,000 in cash.
Why wouldn't I want to walk around with my own money in cash?
You know, if that's what you want to do, we can certainly order that cash for you, sir. We're going to be here by Tuesday.
I need to be able to get in contact with who I actually report to in the chain of command. Because I want to get my money withdrawn right now. I want to close my account, and I want to get out of this Bank of America right now. I'm going to close it right now. Yes.
Issue that in the form
That's fine. I guarantee my other bank won't give me this. No, I want to close it right now. Take me to close my account out.
Okay. Can you sign on here?
$1 million.
That's easy, guys. That's absolutely it's the same bullshit. And you know me, I like to put videos out there so we can kind of see. You know, I would really have loved to show you guys the other video where it shows a lawyer talking about what the little old lady went through, but you guys can look it up. It says it, grandma banking while she's black, and you'll see the news thing, and it's so disheartening. It's like, I worry about my son. What's going to happen when he has to go to the bank and deposit a large amount of money or withdraw amount, and he's completely black. He's going to have more problems than I did.
Well,
and I just feel that in 20. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to just say that some of it is racial, you know, and it's not always racial. I think that maybe we need to do a financial education episode or something. I don't think that our community understands that doing business as a person is the most limited way you can bank. That if you really want to take full advantage of these things that the bank services have to offer, you have to, you know, create an entity in order to do it. You know, some of the pushback you receive will be from a person to person. So when you bank with the bank as an individual, they can place a lot more limitations on you. But when you operate from an entity perspective, you get a lot more range. So $100,000 pulling out from a merchant account is a lot different than it being pulled out from someone like a personal account. They treat it differently, and you have to understand that too. So it's not always just because you're brown. It's different tiers, but you have to
see. No, Grace. See, as I was talking, so to piggyback on what True was saying earlier in the beginning of the show, when I told you my experience dealing with private banking and private client services, right, where the vice president of the bank came out and was like, you know, they did, you know, they were like, Mr. Delamore, how can I help you? And you know, I gave them the check, and they took care of my transactions, right? So so if you're dealing in that, then yeah, you're not going to have a problem. If you're dealing in private client services, you have, you know, depending what company that you're with, right? There's an account there that they have a status where they make where they make it to private clients. So there's a privilege that come with that, right? Again, back to what True is saying, it's different, you know, it's different tiers, right? So, and he's right. When you're dealing person to person, they're going to give you more times than not, they're going to give you a hard time. It shouldn't be, but unfortunately, that's how the system is.
And again, and this is where my beloved Kevin Samuels and Monique tries to tell the women, it's important how you dress. You will be addressed according to how you dress. You know, you go into a bank to deal with a $100,000 transaction. I would hope that it shouldn't matter, but you know, we live in a very visual society, and you can't fight it. What I've learned is you just have to master their game, and that's it. And if you're going to go to a bank to deal $100,000, open a checking account, a business account, you got to look the part. You have to talk the part, because you're already at a disadvantage just because you're melanated or brown. you're already at disadvantage because you don't have the knowledge of banking. But then to go in there on top of that, you know, emotionally and irate and things like that, we do have to like check ourselves sometimes too. Oh, I don't care how I dress. If they don't like it, then don't be surprised of the outcome. And that's what I'm trying to say, because I remember when I was a kid, we used to dress like we was going to church when we get on an airplane. I mean, people will be dressed in suits. My mom will have my little church dress on with my little pigtails. I mean, it was a big deal to travel back then. Now you're in your fuzzy slippers and bonnets and looking raggedy, but you know, you expect to be treated respectfully. And again, it shouldn't be that way, but we as colored and melanated, whatever you want to say, we have to work 2, 3, 4 times harder than the average person to get the same result. And unfortunately, in 2023, it's still going on. And let me just give you a little bit more information. It says here that Black and melanated customers have complained of being confronted with skepticism, hurdles, and calls to the police. Almost half of Black families are underbanked compared to 19% of white families. Black businesses lacked access to PP loans and continue to get hold on, I was all over the place with my notes today. Don't mind me. I'm at work trying to do all this. And continue to get declined for loans 80% by some studies. And then I did tell you guys already that in 2011, Bank of America had to pay $300 million in fines for discrimination. And guess where they're taking that money out of? Charging fees. You see what it's like? They're not going to lose. 50 years after the Federal Fair Housing Act banned racial discrimination in lending to African Americans and Latinos, it continued to routinely deny conventional mortgage loans and at higher rates for higher than their white counterparts. So it's still, and the unbanked and underbanked rates are just, it's so unbalanced, is not even funny. So I guess where that, I say all that to say this: we have to take it upon ourselves to educate ourselves. We cannot sit here and always blame them. Okay.
Well, that's what it is. We've never, we've, you know, we've, our, we've never learned finance and banking, right? We've had a history, and I said this in the beginning, unfortunately, we've had a bad history dealing with the banking history, with the banking industry, and this goes back to Jesus, the 1900s and stuff like that. So, you know, but it's important nowadays that yes, we definitely educate, right? It's educate others on how the system works, how to deal with these institutions, because that's what's going to help change things, right? You know, a very quick story. A friend of mine from a major rap group, Wu-Tang, had got a big check. He went to the bank to try to cash the check at that time, and and he was expecting the bank to give him like 70 grand at that time. Now he had no idea, and he admitted he didn't know how the system worked. He didn't know that he had to wait a couple of days to get that kind of money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So yeah, so it's educating, right? Educating, you know, those in our community on how the system works.
We have to learn from each other, and we have to be willing to share that information. I remember where I specifically made it a point to have, when he started working at 14, he had his own bank account. I had him sign the paperwork. I had him I took pictures and everything. You know, baby boy got his own account. he knows what a debit card looks like. He knows how to write a check. I remember one day I was at a bank and this kid was trying to write out his rent check. He didn't know how to write $2,228 on a check. He was like, "Man, can you help me with this?" Some people, when they come to my job, they don't even know how to fill out a money order. And it's sad. It's like it's in there. And another thing is, I see it because I help people with their credit. They have no clue what credit is until they run into a problem, or their mama fucked up their credit by putting the light bill in their name at 7 years old.
Yeah.
We are not taught this. We weren't. A lot of us in our community wasn't taught this, right? Now, here in New York City, you can go to one of these Asian stores, and I assure you that a few of them, you'll see they'll have their little child in there at the cash register, learning what's going on. We never did. We've never done that. We've never grown up like that. So there's a difference here. They're being taught from young, like firsthand.
Yeah, and I think again, what specifically with our community, I learned this years ago. We have to learn how America views America overall is not a country, it's a corporation. So if you want to take advantages of the best things that America has to offer, and I learned this when I started my first business, you have to have an entity. Like you're always going to lose if you do it personal. And I think specifically with our community, we romanticize the idea of you as a person. Like, oh, I have this and I have that. When you start running in circles with people who got money, you'll start to realize real quick, nothing they have, they actually own as a person. Like everything is funneled through entities. Everything. That is how you start to
live. That's a whole nother show, bro.
And you use other people's money and like look at all these people that are getting arrested now for the PPP loans. You didn't do right with it. And you're hurting the business owners that did right with it. I got one. I even got forgiven. Don't even have to repay it. Why? I had my LLC. I had my EIN. I used that money for what I said I was going to use it for. I didn't go on Instagram and flaunt on a yacht and do come on. Come on. Did you not think it was going to catch up?
Right. But unfortunately, in times of crisis, you're going to have those people that's going to try to financially benefit from the crisis. Look what happened with 9/11. There was a fund created to help all the victims, and they stole $100 million.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, the conversations are different. I was talking to a family member of mine some months ago because I've helped them with some things. And I said, you'll start to understand the levels of this game when you start to hear the conversation change. Our community talks about how much they earn salary, how much they made off of a deal. There's nothing wrong with that. When you start running with certain people, they start to talk about their portfolio and how much interest it's earning. And that's how you learn. That's why when I pop on Instagram, if you see somebody with a money phone or a stack of money, I'm like, that's dumb because when you understand how money works, anytime it's outside of the system, it's not earning. It's actually dying. It's like plucking a fruit off a tree. It can't grow that way, but financial education. So.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I'm not. Go ahead, Grace. I'm sorry.
Finances and banking and stuff needs to be taught as
in high school.
As important as, and I'm gonna put it this way, it's life or death, okay, and it needs to be spoken as life or death. So, I know, like, my ex-husband is white, so I don't have to talk to my kids about how to deal with the police. But my best friends, I do talk to their kids about how to deal with the police, because of their skin tone. Like, I care. I want them safe. We have conversations like that. It should be that important. It should be put to that standard. When it comes, and people think, oh, well, it's just banking. It's just, no, but it's life or death. It's your money. Are you going to eat tomorrow? or not. It's still life or death. And you know what? One thing we all know is money talks and bullshit walks.
Yep, that's you're absolutely right. You're absolutely, and it's always the ones with the monies, the high rollers. You know, the justice system, there is no justice. The justice system is for the rich. You're fucked if you're melanated and poor. You are. You get a public pretender. That's what I call them. A public pretender. Because they're so overwhelmed and swamped with cases. Half of them don't even know if they're coming or going. You know, half of us can't afford an attorney, and they know exactly how to charge us. But real quick, let me give a shout out to the barber Big Shaq. Thank you for coming through. If you guys need a barber in South Florida, holla at him. He's been doing my son's hair since he was a baby. So, and it's funny that you show up today because he went and got a haircut today, and I'm like, damn, I miss me some Shaq because he does it all. He trims him the eyebrows, the thighs, everything. So if y'all ever in South Florida, look him up. He is in Coral Springs, Florida. He will hook you up. And then I got Texas says something here. I've been with Chase and Bank of America for 20 plus years and hate their guts, but I got to use them for their investment in international services. I deposit the checks in the ATM. I don't walk in. I hate tellers. And I get it, PA. I hear where you're coming from, but you don't have to be bound to Chase and Bank of America. There are other banks that will offer you better rates, more services, and treat you like a VIP king motherfucker, like you like to be treated, because I already know your personality, versus having to be a ghost at you with your own money. I want to walk into a bank and know and see, and I want a bitch to look up my account and be like, damn, this bitch got 120. Yeah, run me my money.
But Grace, I think that so here's the thing. Now, when you have global banks like Bank of America and even J.P. Morgan Chase, um, for people that travel, banks like that is great. Now, if you have a local regional bank, you know, and you're traveling overseas, then you need to find out what the corresponding bank would be in whatever country you're going to. Now, the transaction fees may be a killer, right? I think, and True would understand this, right? So I think that, you know, when the I guess prestige, if you will, when you look at these bigger banks, especially the global ones, you know, it's good for people who's traveling around the world. But if you're not traveling around the world like that, then you could do a regional bank.
And to piggyback on what you're saying, that's why you're not supposed to ever keep all your money in one bank. You should spread yourself thin. Because if shit go down in one bank, you got some money in another bank. I'm not really sure, but Jay, are you there from Let's Talk with JVJ? Because you've been quiet. I don't know if you're chilling. I don't know what's going on. Are you there? Yay? Nay? Okay, no problem. It's all good. But honestly, guys, I mean, I wanted to put this out there. I do want to say that I'm gonna close out by saying, look, we need to educate ourselves and stop pointing fingers at others. We need to network with each other. Like, I always try to surround myself with people that I'm gonna benefit from positively. I can learn from, and I don't care about their age, because I tell my son all the time, I learn things from you, even though you're only 16 years old. There are things that you can learn from everybody. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if it's something that you can use, you filter it and you use it. But we cannot sit here and keep blaming others. We got to teach ourselves. Just like we quick to pick up that phone and Google stats on Michael Jordan, you know, we can Google information about a particular bank and how to, you know, IRAs and 401ks. And because trust me, I didn't know none of that shit. And I lost a lot of money depending on somebody to help me grow my money, when in fact they were churning the hell out of my account because they saw that I didn't know shit. My dad made a lot of money. He knew how to spend a lot of money, but he didn't know how to manage money. And that's what fucked him up. And because why? He came from a poor, his parents came from Italy to Ellis Island in New York. He didn't know any better, but he made sure he took care of his family. Now it's up to us. Now, because I've seen what my father's been through or what I've been through with finances, I'm making sure that my son doesn't make that same mistake. And he sees it and he knows it and stuff like that. Okay, I'm gonna go around the room and you guys say your closing thoughts and feedback. Again, I want to thank you guys for showing up. I really do appreciate the support. Oh yeah, I don't go 3, 4, 5 hours like Jay does. I don't have that attention span. And then I have to now sit here and upload my videos. I want to do a couple shorts, so I got other stuff to do. But I do make sure that I get everything that I want to say off my chest, talk about everything, and let everybody speak their piece. So we're gonna go around the room. We're gonna go with ladies first. Grace, again, thank you so much for becoming one of my subscribers and fan. I really do appreciate it. Grace, go ahead in closing. What last minute thoughts or feedback you have to say?
I would say battle the problems that you have on paper, do it the right way. Do not let your emotions, the heart is deceptive above all things. Don't let your emotions get in the way of doing what you need to get done so that it actually gets done. And most importantly, people are resources. Hold yourself accountable, learn and grow. And what you don't know, ask a friend, ask another friend, ask somebody. We have social media, we have many ways to reach out. Say, hey, can you teach me? Can you help me? You know, so that we're not stuck in a situation to where we just don't know. There's no reason to be naive about a situation anymore. Ask and learn.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. Like, I don't know if any of you guys noticed, but you see how I'm not lagging tonight? I had a friend teach me how to clean my damn computer. It was just too much. It was slowing down my computer. It was simply just him coming in here and say, "Let me see what you got going on in here." And he erased so much crap. I didn't know that if you opened up a tab, it saves. I mean, I didn't. I'm not computer savvy. I know how to
Same
talk
thing
and
with
I
your
know how to
phone.
research. Huh?
Same thing with you. It's the same thing with your phone. You got to clean out your phone every now and then too.
And then he made me restart the computer. So, and you see, I'm not lagging. My videos went good. So, shout out to JVJ because he's the one that like, girl, you let me see what you got going on. So I'm a good delegator and I know how to reach for people. I know who to ask for what I need to get when I need to get it. True, we're gonna go next to you. Pleasant surprise. Love seeing you pop in. You're a familiar face. I love it. And you had a lot of good nuggets to drop. I see why you came in because you had the knowledge to give. Any last minute thoughts or feedback?
Well, just thank you for having me. Good panel, good topic. I just encourage people, all people, to really start to educate yourself. I know that sounds very generic, but also identifying your personality and your relationship when it comes to money. I find that a lot of people, because this is so foreign to us, especially if you come from a community like ours, a lot of us didn't have money. We didn't grow up rich. So there's nothing wrong with, being ignorant, but there is something wrong with staying ignorant.
Ooh.
Learn.
Ooh. I'm going to use that one.
No doubt.
I love that one.
Learn who you are, and do your best that you be educating yourself. You'll start to see things unfold when you start to learn really how money works, not in a tangible form, but the way it works is how it's spent, leverage, credit, all of it, and then grow. And you can really, really live well. Don't necessarily have to be a millionaire. You don't necessarily have to make 6 figures, but wherever you're at, maximize where you're at and then build from there.
Absolutely. And True, where can we find you?
I can be found on YouTube, same name, TREUTABLE. I'm also on Instagram as well as TikTok. So yeah, reach out. I appreciate it.
And please like, subscribe, and share. And certainly last, but never always the best, Gary. Go ahead. What are your final thoughts and comments?
Well, first, I definitely want to thank you for having me again. I just want to say that, you know, you have to educate yourself, right? And I guess as true and as Grace said, there's no reason to be ignorant now, right? We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have TikTok, right? And in those, granted, you see all these other stuff there, but there are a lot of people posting up financial literacy stuff, like voluntarily doing it, right? So there's no reason to be stupid. Like there's no reason to be ignorant now. No reason. So you can Google, you can YouTube, you can Facebook, TikTok, anything about financial literacy, and look at what comes up, right? And you could watch some of these videos and begin to learn because it's very important. It's very important. You can catch me every Friday night from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time on The Real Discussion, featuring The Real Discussion with Rock Logic, featuring Gary D and Robin. And I'm also president of Boardwalk Global Media, a podcast network. We do quite a few podcasts every week. You could catch me on Facebook, Gary Delamoth, which is my full name. On Instagram, it's Gary D ESI BGM. And again, Grace, thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Thank you guys all for coming, Grace. It's always a pleasure. True, it was a pleasant surprise. Gary, you're a fixture here on, they're gonna think that it's gonna be Embrace the Grace with Gary. But I really do appreciate you guys. This was a good one. It was an important one. I'm going to run it about 2-3 times on YouTube so people can really learn and see what we need to do better. But guys, all I have to say is don't get discouraged. Keep trucking, make that money, and just be smart with the money. Okay, guys? Embrace banking. Don't run away from it because sooner or later it's going to be gone anyway. So you might as well learn it, master it, and keep it moving. Guys, have a good one. Take care. Hold on. I think I have an outro to do. Hold on. Where's his outro? I gotta learn how to do all this. Expect me to do this. Let's talk JWJ. Oh, he doesn't have an outro. Okay, but he does. Here we go. Have a good night, guys. Let me show that.
You know who made it.